afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state and spell your name for the court record?
My name is Cara McCarthy, CARAMCCARTHY.
And what is your occupation?
I am the supervisor of the Firearm and Toolmark section at the Virginia Department of Forensic Science, the Northern Laboratory in Manassas.
And how long have you been employed by the Department of Forensic Science?
For almost 12 years.
And for how long have you been assigned to the Forensic Firearm and Toolmark section?
The entire time.
What is firearm identification and analysis?
Firearms identification has a primary concern to determine if a bullet, a cartridge case, or other ammunition component was fired from a particular firearm.
And how is firearm identification possible?
Firearms identification is possible because most manufacturing processes involve the transfer of rapidly changing microscopic markings onto various tool surfaces, like firearm parts. And these firearm parts may impart markings onto ammunition components when they come in contact with each other. And then I can evaluate these markings on ammunition components in the laboratory using microscopy.
And where did you work before you worked for the Virginia Department of Forensic Science?
I was previously employed as a firearm and toolmark examiner with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Division of Forensic Sciences in Decatur, Georgia.
And could you please describe your duties as a forensic firearm and toolmark examiner?
Some of my job duties include evaluating firearms-related evidence that is submitted to the laboratory, analyzing the results of that evidence, reporting on my findings in a certificate of analysis, testifying when requested, providing training to scientists in the section, and also managing the day-to-day operations of the section.
And approximately how many firearms examinations have you conducted in your career?
Approximately 2,500.
What's your relevant educational background?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Forensic Science from Baylor University, and I also have a Master's in Education from the University of Notre Dame.
And what specialized training have you had in the field of forensic firearm and toolmark examination?
When I started my training at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, I underwent a rigorous training program with GBI and NFSTC, National Forensic Science Technology Center. And during that time, I successfully completed numerous oral, written, and practical examinations in multiple blocks of instruction in the firearm and toolmark discipline. I also attended a comprehensive manufacturing plant tour. I was qualified to work cases in the firearm and toolmark section, and I did so for a period of time before I accepted a position with the Virginia Department of Forensic Science, again went through a brief training program with Virginia, and again was qualified to work casework in the firearm and toolmark section.
And have you had occasion to train others in the field of forensic firearms and toolmark analysis?
Yes, I have.
And what subjects have you taught?
I've provided training in the firearm and toolmark discipline to trainees in the section. I'm also an adjunct instructor for George Mason University. I teach their firearm and toolmark identification class for their graduate forensic science program.
Have you previously been qualified as an expert witness in the area of forensic firearm and toolmark examination and analysis?
Yes, I have.
And in what courts have you been so qualified?
I have testified in several courts in the state of Georgia, as well as numerous courts in the Commonwealth of Virginia, including the counties of Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William, Page, and the cities of Winchester, Alexandria, Norfolk, Portsmouth, among others, and United States District Court, the Eastern District in Alexandria.
Do you have an estimate as to the number of times that you've been qualified as an expert?
I have testified approximately 89 times. A majority of those I was qualified as an expert.
And do you have an estimation of how many times you've been qualified as an expert in Fairfax County?
About 9 times.
Judge, I would ask that the witness be qualified as an expert in the area of forensic firearm and ammunition examination comparison, as well as muzzle-to-target distance determination.
Any objection? All right, so moved then.
Are you familiar with the components of a cartridge?
Yes, I am.
And did you bring a demonstrative to help explain this to us?
Yes, I did.
Could you please describe these components for us with your demonstrative?
Yes, Your Honor, may I retrieve it?
Yes.
This is a demonstrative aid of a cartridge. A cartridge is a single unit of ammunition, and it's made up of 4 parts: the primer, the cartridge case, the propellant inside the cartridge case, and the bullet.
And are you familiar with the functioning of a semi-automatic firearm?
Yes.
Could you explain how a cartridge is fired from a firearm?
Cartridges are loaded into the magazine, and the magazine is inserted into the frame of the firearm. On top of the frame sits a barrel and slide. Pull the slide of the firearm rearward and let go. As the slide travels forward, it will strip a cartridge from the magazine into the chamber of the firearm, which is the rear portion of the barrel. At that time, the firearm is ready to fire. Put your finger on the trigger and pull the trigger rearward. This will release the firing mechanism, and the firing pin, will strike the primer of the cartridge. The primer will ignite the propellant. The propellant will burn, and gas will build up and force the bullet out of the cartridge case and down the barrel of the firearm. The energy will send the slide traveling rearward, where the extractor will extract the cartridge case out of the chamber, and the ejector will kick the cartridge case out of the firearm. The slide travels forward again, stripping a new cartridge from the magazine into the chamber. And you can repeat the process by pulling the trigger again.
And can you describe the process by which you examine firearms and ammunition components in a laboratory setting?
I routinely examine firearms and ammunition components like bullets and cartridge cases in the laboratory. Regarding firearms, I conduct a visual and physical examination to determine if they are in working order. I check the safety features of the firearm and test fire the firearm at the lab. Regarding ammunition components, I evaluate these microscopically to determine if they have suitable markings on them for comparison to other ammunition components in the case or to test fires that I produce from a firearm.
And were you asked to analyze firearms, magazines, ammunition components, and a T-shirt for this particular case?
Yes, I was.
At this point in time, I am going to ask to admit what I believe is going to be Commonwealth's probably 235. And it is, I've got it in a box over here.
All right. Any objection to 235? I think it's the fire. I think it's a firearm. Okay, no objection to 235?
235.
235.
And do you recognize this item?
May I look at the container?
Yes.
Yes, I recognize Commonwealth's Exhibit item 235 by the laboratory number and 231753 and the initials on the container. My initials on the container.
And what is the item?
This item is a firearm. It's a Glock Model 19M 9mm Luger pistol.
And when you began your examination of this firearm, were there any attachments on it?
Yes,
And what was the attachment?
there is a flashlight that's attached to the firearm.
Was it necessary to remove that flashlight?
Yes, for my examination.
And what did you do to determine whether this firearm was in working order?
I performed a visual and physical examination on the firearm. I checked the safety features of the firearm, and I also test fired it.
And what was the result of your examination?
This firearm, the Glock Model 19M, was found to be in mechanical operating condition with the safety features functioning properly.
And are you familiar with the item number 1 on your certificate of analysis lab sheet?
Yes, I am.
And what is that item?
Item 1 on the certificate of analysis for laboratory number N23-1753 is a 9mm Luger cartridge case.
And tell us how you went about analyzing item 1.
I microscopically examined the item 1 cartridge case and compared it to test fires that I produced from Commonwealth Exhibit 235.
And what was the result of the examination?
The item 1 cartridge case was identified as having been fired in Commonwealth Exhibit 235, the Glock Model 19M pistol.
And are you familiar with item 80 on your certificate of analysis lab sheet?
Yes.
And what is item 80 and how many parts did it have?
Item 80 on the certificate of analysis for N23-1753 contains 3 bullet fragments and 2 lead fragments from autopsy.
And whose autopsy are they from?
The autopsy of Joseph Ryan.
And tell us how you went about analyzing these bullet fragments.
The bullet fragments were designated items 80A, 80B, and 80C. These were microscopically examined, and the item 80A bullet fragment was compared to test fires produced from Commonwealth's Exhibit item 235, the Glock Model 19M pistol.
And we can put that item aside, and we're going to move on to a different firearm. And Judge, I'm going to ask to admit this as Commonwealth's 236.
236, any objection to 236? 230 is the second firearm. All right, 236.
And do you recognize this item?
Yes, I recognize this item by the laboratory number N23-1753 and my initials on the container.
And what is it?
This item is a firearm. It's a Glock Model 43X 9mm Luger pistol.
And what did you do to determine whether this firearm was in working order?
I performed a visual and physical examination on the firearm, checked the safety features, and I also test fired the firearm.
And what was the result of your examination?
This firearm, the Glock Model 43X, was found to be in mechanical operating condition with the safety features functioning properly.
And are you familiar with item 2 on your certificate of analysis lab sheet?
Yes.
And what is item 2?
Item 2 for laboratory number N23-1753 is a 9mm Luger cartridge case.
And can you tell us how you went about analyzing the cartridge case?
I microscopically analyzed the item 2 cartridge case and compared it to test fires that I produced from Commonwealth Exhibit .236, the Glock Model 43X pistol.
And I'm sorry, what was the result of the examination?
The item 2 cartridge case was identified as having been fired in Commonwealth Exhibit 236, the Glock Model 43X.
And are you familiar with item 81 on your certificate of analysis lab sheet?
Yes, I am.
And what is it?
Item 81 on laboratory case number N23-1753 is a bullet from the autopsy of Joseph Ryan.
And tell us how you went about analyzing this bullet.
I microscopically examined the bullet, item 81, and compared it to test fires from Commonwealth Exhibit 236, the Glock Model 43X pistol.
And what was the result of your examination?
The item 81 bullet was identified as having been fired from Commonwealth Exhibit 236, the Glock Model 43X pistol.
Did you memorialize your conclusions in a certificate of analysis?
Yes.
In a moment, I hope to show you that. This one? Try that.
Oh. No, it's that.
It's not here.
Exhibit number?
230. Hold on.
No, nothing has been loaded onto this. If you had it on there, it had to be loaded onto here. Okay? But you don't have,
Yes, I do.
you have HDMI?
No, I have a dongle.
Right, where is the,
In my. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
lift up. There you go.
Get it. Okay. If I could have you take a look at the document that's displayed on your screen. Can you see it?
Yes,
Okay.
I can.
Okay. And I'm going to scroll through it. This has been stipulated to its admissibility. Is this your lab sheet?
Yes, it is.
And Can you note the date for us?
This is the certificate of analysis that I produced on this case. The certificate of analysis is dated April 11th, 2023.
And does this lab sheet reflect the results that we've just discussed?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Judge, if we could terminate this view, I would ask to admit this as Commonwealth 234.
Any objection to 234? You need your microphone, Mr. Carroll, I can't.
I don't have an objection, Judge, but I'd like to leave this up for cross-examination.
Well, I don't, are you done now? Or?
I have one more section.
Okay, that's
yes.
fine, yes, but I'm sure they can leave it up for you. Okay. So it is an evidence as 234, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Were you asked to do an additional analysis in this case at a later date?
Yes, I was.
What type of analysis were you asked to do?
I was asked to perform a muzzle-to-target distance determination examination.
And which items did you use, which exhibits and items did you use to do that?
For that examination, I used item 83, which is a t-shirt. I also used item, it's my item 5, the Glock Model 43X pistol, and cartridges in the case.
And is that the Glock 43X pistol that we just examined here?
Yes.
What is a muzzle-to-target distance determination?
A muzzle-to-target distance determination is an examination that's conducted in an attempt to determine the approximate distance the muzzle of the firearm was from the target at the time of firing.
And how is it possible to determine how far away a firearm was at the time it was fired?
When a firearm is fired, not only does the bullet exit the firearm, but also gunshot residues. These residues leave the firearm in the shape of a cone, and they are comprised of burned, unburned, partially burned gunpowder particles, as well as vaporous lead or smoke, lead particulate, and really anything else that's in the barrel at the time of firing. And these residues can be deposited in a predictable and reproducible pattern at certain distances. So in the laboratory, I can examine items of clothing, examine them for gunshot residues, and then compare them to known targets that I've created in the laboratory.
And how do you conduct this examination in the laboratory?
Regarding the evidence item of clothing, I visually, microscopically, and chemically process that for the presence of gunshot residues. I also create test targets at known distances and compare those test targets to the results of the evidence clothing.
And were you able to draw any conclusions about the distance between the muzzle of the 43X and the hole in the t-shirt?
Yes.
And what was that conclusion?
The t-shirt, item 83 on my lab report, had a hole in the front left middle area. And this area was visually, microscopically, and chemically processed for gunshot residues, and no pattern of residues was found. Therefore, this is indicative of the muzzle of the Glock 43X having been greater than approximately 21 inches from the hole in the shirt at the time of firing, barring the presence of an intervening object.
And did you memorialize your conclusions in a certificate of analysis?
Yes, I did.
And Judge, if I could have this next item displayed only to the witness. Do you see the document on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. And this is, I'm asking to admit this as Commonwealth 231, and it has been stipulated too.
I already have 231 as Christine's phone with
Oh, I'm sorry. Then
the app showing.
we'll do that as
Correct, Jan?
235,
235 is the firearm Glock 19M.
236,
236 is a firearm Glock 43X.
237,
That is blank.
237.
237. Any objection? All right. Thank you.
I'm going to scroll through this so that you can see. Is this your lab sheet?
Yes.
I don't have any further questions for you. Mr. Carroll is going to have some questions for you. I'm going to separate for this for just a moment so that only the lab sheets that Mr.
Okay.
Carroll is looking
right,
for are showing.
Take a moment to do that. Mr. Carroll, are you going to need the firearms themselves for your cross-examination? Okay. You can bring them over here. Deputy Johnson, thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Ms. McCarthy.
Good afternoon.
I think we previously had spoken in prep, or I guess months before this trial date. I had indicated that I was going to stipulate to your lab sheets when they asked me to do that, but I did have some questions related to how you receive the firearms and what you do with the firearms after you're done. That's okay. So at some point you receive, and if I'm assuming something wrong, please tell me.
Okay.
At some point you receive the firearms from the evidence detectives at Fairfax County Police Department, correct?
The firearms are submitted to the laboratory to evidence receiving specialist, and that's when they get a laboratory number assigned to them and they're entered into our system.
Okay. And so there's someone in your organization that takes it and then brings it to you for whatever the specific test is.
They receive the evidence from the agency. They may transfer that evidence to the section, or I may pick up the evidence at their section.
Okay, and I think we're talking about on 235, Exhibit 235, we're talking about the Glock 19M?
Yes.
Okay. Was it packaged like it was today for you when you opened it up?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so same packaging, and then you put yellow tape over it after you're done?
That's correct.
Okay. And when you took it out, what was the condition of the firearm when you got an opportunity to handle it?
I can refer specifically to my notes, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Can I refer to my notes, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
The Glock Model 19M was received in a closed brown bag with a zip tie through the action of the firearm, and a flashlight was attached to the firearm. And there was possible biological material that I noted on the firearm.
Okay, and the biological material, would that have been blood?
That's outside my area of expertise.
Okay. Well, I guess that my question is there any sort of a cleanup of that firearm in order to do the things that you do to test it?
No, I did not clean the firearm.
Okay, and are there any instructions to police department evidence clerks or detectives who are bringing things like firearms to you and how they should be in, what condition they should be in before you get them?
Firearms can be submitted to the laboratory in the same condition that they are recovered in, particularly ones that are submitted in water. We want the agency to submit the firearm with water or in water.
Okay. And is there any situation where you would want them, if say there were other tests that needed to be done, where you would advise them to do other tests before the tests that you do?
There are some agencies that do test fire the firearm for entry into the NIBIN system before it's submitted to the laboratory.
And was that done in this case, do you know?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So the testing, would the testing that you did in creating this lab sheet, would that have caused any contamination to any later blood analysis that was on the gun?
Again, any analysis regarding biological materials outside my area of expertise.
Okay, so there are no policies or anything regarding that?
Typically, if there is a request for a DNA test or a latent print test, that would occur before it comes to the firearms section.
Okay. I have no further questions, Judge.
All right, redirect.
Neither of these firearms were submitted to you in water, correct?
That's correct.
No further questions, Judge.
All right, is this witness subject to recall?
No, Judge.
All right, you're free to go. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have a good day. All right, your next witness.
Catherine Colombo, please.
Catherine, I'm sorry, what was the last name?